An elder service agency based in Jamaica Plain has a new grant to continue a program in money management. The program is offered by Ethos for the elderly and people with disabilities. To tell us about the program and the need for some help from volunteers is our guest from Ethos, the Director of Protective Services, Sandy Hovey. Thank you very much for being with us, Sandy.
Thanks for having us.
Sandy, there are a lot of us who probably need help like this even before we get that old, but
Indeed.
You're working with people, I guess, who have some really urgent needs.
Right. The grant that we got from the BNY Mellon is to help folks who are at serious risk of homelessness, not paying their bills, some underlying mental health issues, hoarding behaviors, et cetera, which result in them not being able to pay their rent. So what we're able to do with this program is to hire staff to be able to manage some of these cases.
I imagine one thing that happens is people get older, a spouse dies, and it's oftentimes the spouse who used to handle the bills.
Absolutely. We've got folks who are suffering from some dementia, some folks who are dealing with loss, as you'd mentioned, in relation to, their spouse has been managing their finances. And we're not talking high finance here. We're talking very basic
the electric
bill payment.
Cable
exactly.
Bill.
Making sure that rent is paid, making sure the cable is paid, so they have a telephone for emergencies, et cetera.
I think the other thing, too, is you've got people who have other things that they have to do with their money. Sometimes you have to go to an ATM, and if you haven't gotten used to doing that, that might be a real ordeal.
Well, ATMs are one thing, but even having checks directly deposited for a lot of our clients is really difficult. And Social Security actually is mandating that people now have to have their checks directly deposited, which is difficult for some of our elders who have always used to, first of all, many of them are from the Depression era and aren't used to having direct deposits and like to have their check and like to go to the bank themselves.
Now, this is a program you're offered from an agency in Jamaica Plain, but this is really a citywide program.
Yeah, the Boston Money Management Program is a program that's funded through the Executive Office of Elder Affairs and AARP, and it's a collaboration between the three home care agencies in Boston, which is Boston Senior Home Care, Ethos, and Central Boston Elder Services. So we cover the entire city from East Boston to West Roxbury, and we're struggling to find volunteers because not only is this grant is to help folks who are at high risk of homelessness due to not paying their bills, but we're always struggling to find other volunteers who we can match up with our clients. And languages is an issue. Spanish speaking, Cantonese, Mandarin, Russian speaking, particularly in the Brighton area.
What about the other kinds of qualifications you need from volunteers, short of being an accountant or a financial management consultant here? What are we talking about?
Well, all of our volunteers are Corey cleared, so they have to not have a criminal record. We have to be able to trust them, and we have to know that they're doing appropriate things when they're going, because they're going into the people's homes. They're going in to write the checks out, and sometimes bring some cash to them if that's what the requirement is. They have to be compassionate. They have to be sensitive to what the needs are, and the way in which some elders live is different than maybe some of their volunteers might want them to live. But we have to allow them to live out their life as independently as they possibly can.
I imagine there might be some extreme cases when the elder who's being helped might really have a hard time keeping track of when the bills come in and where they were put. So this could be still a tricky situation for people.
Well, one of the things we first do is, first of all, they're trying to develop a relationship, the volunteer or the money managers are. And, through that, there is a process that we try and set up a budget with them to help them to let them know that we're making sure that all of their bills are paid. And that takes, there's a lot of trust that has to happen there, because often when folks are their basic bills aren't being paid, there's a very direct correlation between folks that end up being admitted to nursing homes early. So what we're trying to do is trying to keep them at home as long as possible. But managing the money is a very, very sensitive issue, and we try to empower our clients to stay home as long as possible, but it really is based upon that relationship and the trust that they have.
So, of course, in addition to helping the people who get the service directly, this is helping a lot of people because it's the taxpayers who foot the bill when someone has to be institutionalized.
Absolutely, and not only that, but the volunteers who who are participating in this program, they get so much out of it. You know, I mean, many of them are really wanting to give back, and this is an excellent opportunity because you can. I mean, and not to mention some folks are, you know, they live away from their families, or they don't have their grandparents, or their grandparents are dead, and often they can develop, you know, very, very warm relationships. And we look for folks that are willing to make at least a year's commitment because as I said, developing that relationship is the key to how to make this work.
And you talk about that additional human contact, because you have elders who might be fairly isolated, they're away from their family a lot of the time, and having one more person come by once a week or twice a month, that I guess would make a difference.
It's a huge difference. I mean, you know, one of the struggles we have is trying to get our volunteers not to do too much, right? Not you know, going out and doing their shopping, et cetera, et cetera. We really try and help them focus on just doing the money management. But they walk in, they see the needs, and they want to help.
Well, we should mention that if people need help or if people want to get in touch about volunteering, what would be the best way to do that?
Call Ethos directly at 617-522-6700 and ask to speak to somebody in the money management program.
Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Sandy Hovey from
Pleasure.
Ethos.